This episode of Buy Black Podcast is brought to you by Haptic Consulting. Haptic Consulting specializes in maximizing the value your organization gets from its training budget by focusing on business needs, eliminating unnecessary training development, and helping you build a culture of engagement from the executive level down. Visit www.hapticconsulting.com to learn how I can help you develop better leaders, happier employees, and a more profitable company culture. Or you can email me at gerald@hapticconsulting.com. That's GERALD@hapticconsulting.com. Now let's get into the show.
I say all that to say there's so much that you don't know that you don't know. So when you approach something saying, oh, this is what it is, this is what it needs to be, and you put $50,000 into this one way to do it, chances are once you get a year or two in, you're going to be like, dang, I didn't know that. I wish I had, even if you're super familiar with your industry. I'm just saying that's just been my experience. So for me, I desired organic growth with my product. I desired that slow, steady, let me get to know this process. Let me build my business acumen as I go.
Buy Black Podcast, episode 35. How to invent, market, and defend your original product with Eva Jane Bunkley. Welcome to Buy Black, the only podcast dedicated to helping you find, connect with, and support Black-owned businesses. We're on a mission to bring consumers and business owners together to ignite the global Black economy. I'm your host, Gerald Jones, and if you're a Black business owner or a socially conscious consumer, you've joined the right community. Ready? Let's get to work. Hey everybody, welcome back to Buy Black, your only podcast dedicated to helping you find and connect with Black-owned businesses. It is me, your host, Gerald Jones, once again, and today we're going to get into a wonderful, wonderful interview with Miss Eva Jane Bunkley, who I'm going to introduce you guys to a little bit later. But first, let's get into our housekeeping items for today so we can spend most of our time focused on the show. The first thing I want to hit you guys up with is our ratings. Always got to remind you to go out there, leave us the ratings and reviews when and where you can. On Apple iTunes, it helps. On the Apple app and on the Android app, it absolutely helps people to find us, especially on those apps. And it is easier than anything in the world to drop us a rating or a review on the app. It's right there on your phone. You do it for your games. Do it for the Buy Black Podcast as well. Right now, we are up to 21 total ratings on the Apple app. So thank you, folks in Apple. We've had a bunch of you jump in here within the last week and just drop that 5 stars. Always appreciated. On that Apple app, we got 19 5-star reviews. We have 1 4-star. And guess what, y'all? We have 1 1-star from somebody who was just out there, saw the name of the podcast, got real salty, and decided to give me a 1-star review. Probably because they just didn't like Buy Black, Build the New Black Wall Street. But you know what? That's not part of the target audience. I'm not worried about their opinion, but you guys can drop us another 15 to 25-star reviews, and we'll cancel out that 1, and that will keep us pushing forward. Over on the Android app, we are still stuck at 12 total reviews. Y'all, I'm an Android user. I believe in the Android family. I need y'all with your Androids, with the app out there. Go out, download the app if you don't have it already on your Android, and then leave that 5-star review. Do not let these Apple people win. All right? Nothing against y'all Apple people, but I mean something against y'all Apple people. Come on, Android. Let's get out there. Let's get these 5-star reviews in. So we have 11 5-star reviews, 1 4-star over on Android. And then on iTunes official, we have 19 total reviews. That's 18 5 stars and a 3-star. So you guys are out there putting in work every week, and I really appreciate you helping me get more exposure, or even at least if it's not more exposure, when people do find the app, there's enough positive reviews out there from you guys that's telling them, hey, this is good content. You want to listen to this. That's really what it's all about, and I appreciate you so much being out there to do it. All right, so the next thing on the list, y'all know I don't normally do this. I don't spend a lot of time talking about news and politics and all this stuff on the show. But a lot has been going on, right? A lot has been going on. So as quickly as I possibly can, I just want to point out 3 particular things that have been going on the last few weeks that, if you are not yet convinced, if you still think that we're just out here listening to podcasts on the way to work, on the way home, or while we're cutting the grass or anything like that, and then it's over with, I don't know what is going to convince you. Right? 3 things right now. So 1, obviously everybody is aware of what happened in Sacramento a few weeks ago with Stephen Clark being killed in his grandmother's backyard, carrying a cell phone. If you watched the video or didn't watch the video, I always watch the videos because part of my life, part of my job is analysis of video. So I always watch the videos because it's just in my nature to pick video apart, and the video, the audio, all the things that are in it, and watching that video, the thing that bothers me is there's a point in the video where these 2 officers are asking each other if they're okay. Did you get hit? No, man, I'm good. Did you get hit? No, I'm good. Who would they have been hit by? Each other? Did they just imagine that he was shooting at them? Like, I didn't get that. And then during that exact same time, they're sitting here talking, and it sounds listening to them, it sounds like exactly what I would hear listening to 2 12-year-olds playing Call of Duty. They're all geeked up. Hey, bro, I'm going to do a tactical reload. You go ahead and keep eyes on him. Tactical reload done. Okay, I got eyes. Tactical reload. Like, where do you think you are? Like, are y'all that excited to be out here shooting black people in their own yards that it takes you to this video game type place? You finally getting some action on the battlefield? It's just, it's sick. The mindset that people get in when they come into contact with black people just living life. I don't understand how. Oh, actually, that's a lie. I understand exactly how. I understand exactly what is going on through their minds, which is what makes it even worse, because it's not intentional, angry, hateful racism. It's much deeper than that. But we're not even going to talk about that today. All right, so I know what's going on in their minds, but it is just sick how this switch flips in people's minds in the United States when they see a black person, and all of the worst case scenarios immediately flood their head, and that's what they act on. I mean, you go from what happened to Stephen Clark to what just happened with Brennan Walker. If you haven't heard about Brennan Walker, he's a 14-year-old boy in Michigan who missed his bus to school, didn't know how to get there, so he went up to someone's door and knocked on the door to ask directions to get to his high school. And the woman behind the door started screaming at him about breaking into the house. He's like, I'm not trying to break into your house. I just need directions. This hysterical woman is screaming that he's trying to break into the house, and then a man comes to the door with a shotgun. Brennan sees a shotgun, turns and runs, and this guy opens the door and shoots at him and tries to kill this 14-year-old child who was asking for directions to go to school. In the daylight, just a normal day, asking directions at the front door. knocking, ringing the doorbell, because that's what burglars do. But people see black figure and immediately the worst case scenario, that's what's happening. Immediately I've got to defend my property against this threat who's trying to make his way to high school. I got to fire off 20 shots against this threat whose property I just came onto and who I just chased into his own backyard and who I shot in the back because he had a phone in his hand. People just see us. And the worst possible thing in the world that could happen, that's what must be happening right now. That's where their brains go. How else do you explain two men walking into a Starbucks? It wasn't closing time. It wasn't opening time. It was just normal time. Two guys going to Starbucks. This is a joke, right? This is the setup for a joke. I posted this on my Facebook page, and I had people coming in the comments like, is this a joke or is this something that actually happened? Because I said, two men walk into a Starbucks and they sit down. Somebody calls the cops and they get arrested for trespassing. Why? That was what I posted on Facebook. I had people come in the comments saying, hey, I don't get it. Is this a joke? Or is this something that happened? Like, no, this is something that happened. And then they go watch the videos. How in your normal, sane world do two men walk into a Starbucks, sit down, wait for a third person to show up so that they can have whatever business meeting they were going to have? Who here has ever had a meeting over coffee? All right, if you're driving right now, I hope you still got at least one hand on the wheel, right? They go to have a meeting over coffee and they ask, hey, can we use the restroom? Oh, restrooms for paying customers. You hadn't bought nothing yet. By the way, you haven't bought anything yet. You must be here to do something bad. I'm going to call the cops. Police officers show up en masse. 3 of them. And then 5 of them. And then 6 of them. Surrounding these two men who are just literally sitting in Starbucks with a whole Starbucks full of people. And what's crazy about that video is you got people sitting to the left and to the right of these two dudes who are still just chilling like ain't nothing going on. And these officers come in, move all these tables out the way, knocking chairs over out the way, because we got to arrest these guys because we got here, told them they need to leave. They're like, no, we're not leaving. We're just sitting here and we're waiting on our friend. Not leaving without our friend. Well, then now you're trespassing. And you're getting arrested for sitting down in a Starbucks. Who called the police? Why would they call the police? How is it that a man saying, I would like to use your restroom, please, made you think he's about to do something bad? I need to call the police. Nothing about that scenario in any logical mind leads to call the police, danger, 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 except that the people involved are black. So here we are in 2018. These are just the most prominent examples over the last couple of weeks. And on top of all of this, we've also just decided, oh, you know what we're about to do? We're gonna start another war. We're just gonna start bombing people again. Because we haven't had enough of that. So let's go toe to toe and antagonize back and forth with the the other superpower out here in the world and start dropping bombs over here in this area so that we can show all of whatever the heck it is that we decide that we want to show. And you know what? I can't even bring myself to muster the energy to be as concerned and worried about that as I should be, because I believe, can't even look further than our own nose to see what else is wrong going on in the world, because as soon as we get to the edge of our nose, there's problems right in front of us. There's danger right in front of us. And I'm sitting here like, man, with all of the trash that is happening right now and continuing to happen and has been happening, what we do have here, we have the ability to start businesses. We have the ability to support businesses. And we have mainly the ability to not worry about a bomb just dropping on the business that we just started or that we've been running for the last 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 30-year family business, 40-year family business, 50-year family business in rubble and ruins because a bomb just dropped on it. We don't have to worry about that. But then again, we kind of do, because we as black folks aren't supporting our black-owned businesses, and they're going out of business at a higher rate than any other group. So really, what's the difference? What's the difference if we're not going to take whatever freedoms and whatever opportunities we do have to take action to support ourselves, to support each other, to build up our own economy? If we're just going to take that for granted and look at two businesses and say, this one is black owned, this one is not, I'm just going to go ahead with the one that's not. If we're doing that, then what's the difference between that and just having a war going on right now and bombs dropping and businesses going out of business left and right? For us, it's the exact same thing. The only difference is that for ours, it's all on us. We could just as easily right now be putting all of our time and energy and effort into supporting black-owned businesses, into connecting with black business owners, entrepreneurs, connecting with each other, supporting each other, putting dollars in each other's pockets. And that's what we need to be doing. If you are not yet convinced that this is not a game, that as long as we continue to just throw our dollars out of the window at every other demographic except other black businesses, or if you're not black and you're listening to this show, as long as you continue to think that somehow this black community is just going to magically start building wealth without any support to its businesses, then there's nothing that's going to convince you. Or worse, whatever the thing is that's going to convince you, I am afraid of it. If it needs to get worse than this for you to be convinced, oh man, something's got to happen, we got to take action, I don't know what that is. I don't want to know what that is. It is far past time for us to stop pretending like it's okay to just do nothing. It's time to work. It's time to take action. We got to take this seriously. So we're going to start with that today, right? Y'all going to listen to this episode. You're going to find out about Eva Jane Bunkley. And you're going to reach out and you're going to help her, because she actually is in a position right now where not only does she have a phenomenal product that many of you out there need and want, but she's also in a position with that product, with her business, that she could definitely use our help. And when I say our help, I mean all of our help in this audience of going out and helping her to spread her message about the process she is going through right now in protecting the product that she created, that she invented, that she patented, that she put out into the market, and now There are companies who are finding cheap Chinese knockoffs and they're putting them out into the market, violating her intellectual property and basically strong-arming her because they got longer dollars than she does. But you know what? We got longer Twitter fingers. And these days, public shaming on social media, boycotts on social media, that stuff works. So that's what we're going to need you guys to do. That's the first step. That's the first step today. That's really, really easy to do. So we're going to listen to this episode with Eva Jane Bunkley talking about her experience in the makeup and in the makeup industry, talking about her experience as an inventor, talking about her experience as an entrepreneur. She's going to teach us a great deal about the process of inventing a product, bringing it to market, and then protecting that product in the market, which can be very difficult when you're a small startup. So there's a lot that Eva Jane brings to us today, and I hope you got your pen and your notepads ready. If you got a product in mind and you've been thinking about how you're going to get it to market, this is the episode for you. So stay tuned. We're going to listen to Eva Jane, and then I'll quickly get back with you guys as a reminder of where to find her products, and how you can help specifically with getting the word out about her fight on social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, wherever you happen to be. We'll do that right after the show. Today, we're going to be connecting with Eva Jane Bunkley. She has been a staple in the makeup industry for the last 25 years. She is an inventor. And guess what, y'all? This is the first time on Buy Black Podcast that we are interviewing somebody who has their own IMDB page. Yes, that is correct. Eva Jane is also a writer, editor, producer on films. She is all over the industry, successfully going out there and making a name for herself. And today we are going to get an incredible conversation about business and some of the not so cute things about business that happen when we're out here. Eva, thank you so much for connecting with me. Thank you for being with me today.
I appreciate this opportunity. This is such a treat.
Yeah, so I was just going to say, you know, we like to jump right into it and get straight to your story, let you take the reins and tell the people about yourself, let them get to know a little bit about you.
Okay, well, I am originally from Columbus, Ohio, but for the past just about 25 years, I've been in the Atlanta, Georgia area, living and working and thriving. Married a native Atlantan. We have 2 young sons. So doing the mompreneur thing, I guess, you know, everybody likes to coin different phrases for entrepreneurs, just depending on where you find yourself in this journey and how much you feel like you have to juggle as an entrepreneur. So being a mom, being a wife, also being a working makeup artist while I am launching a product to market. So for the bulk of my career as a freelance makeup artist, I've been in television and television news even more specifically. Here in Atlanta, I was the makeup artist for our Fox affiliate station, WAGA, for 7 years, and I did our Good Day show. So lots of the larger markets have their own Good Day, so I was the Good Day Atlanta makeup artist. And then I was the makeup artist for our NBC affiliate for 5 years. So I did morning, I did some of the afternoon anchors, I did the evening show. So those were really, really busy years. And then I did other freelance makeup as well. I was Judge Hatchett's makeup artist on her show for a while and did her makeup for about 10 years. And then I also was involved with a Christian broadcast, Changing Your World with Creflo Dollar. He and his wife, I did their makeup for about 11 years. So all the while, sometimes I would do some film, theatrical work, you know, wherever I could kind of do my craft and my art. And I found that I really, really enjoyed just the medium of television. So in 2001 and 2002, I earned back-to-back Emmy Awards for my work and just really, really enjoy the industry. It wasn't what I thought that I was going to be doing when I first moved to Atlanta, I actually majored in textiles and clothing at Ohio State and thought that I was going to get more so into the wardrobe side of everything. But just really the makeup kind of was where I really found that I could express myself artistically with the most freedom. So that's been the bulk of my career. I've dabbled in other things. I actually am an indie filmmaker as well. That's kind of something that I also kind of do on the side. I've had some films in festivals. I've had the pleasure of winning first place in a couple of festivals with some film projects that I've done. But most recently, I started a career in each phase of my adult life. In my 20s, it was makeup. In my 30s, it was film and television production. And then in my 40s, it's been launching a product to market and becoming an inventor and patent holder and exploring, just owning my trademarks. I own the trademark for my name and beauty for Eva Jane. And Eva is actually a family name. We have 5 Evas in my family.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And
so the middle name is the distinguisher then.
You know what? 3 of us were Eva Janes, and I am the last living Eva Jane. And then there's another Eva with another middle name, and then another with a different middle name. So yeah, that is kind of the distinguishing factor. So I've been kind of training my sons lately on, when you have a little girl,
and they're
like,
you got to do.
Like, I don't know about all that. But
so I hate to cut you off. I don't want to, but that is so important though. My grandmother on my mom's side, her name is Mavis. My mother's name is Mavis. She was the youngest daughter in the family, and I have a little cousin also named Mavis. And so I know how it is when you have one of those family names that's rooted in a strong figure in the family. You want that to carry on to the next generations, because I mean that becomes a source of identity and strength and pride. All the Mavises in my life are incredible people, so I know where you're coming from with that.
Exactly. It's like you got to work it in somewhere, but yeah, and I think it's important to have pride in where you come from and your roots and everything, and know that there's dignity and strength there. So that's what I take pride in, from just my name,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that.
So shortly before we got on, I went to IMDB and I watched the short trailer for My Mother Was a Butterfly. I want to watch that movie.
Oh my goodness. That is so funny. You said I have an IMDb. I don't know that I necessarily have paid attention to it. That is so cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it has me on there, mainly producer. Yeah. That is, that's pretty cool. Looked at that. That is pretty cool. I have makeup department credits too.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, you might want to continue filling that thing out, because I'm pretty sure it would be deep if you actually went through and filled in all the different work you've done. You'd have a pretty deep profile on there in the makeup department.
Yeah, it's interesting because people, I see Unsung, and I've done so many more episodes, worked on the show Unsung, and that's pretty cool. Thank you for reminding me of that. I tell you, when you're an indie entrepreneur, there's so many things that you're like managing. It's like some things it's just like, oh yeah, let me go ahead and check that out. But I am
just
very
slip right through the cracks.
Mm-hmm.
So today, the main thing that we came together to talk about, and we had a great conversation last week in the pre-interview, but we came together to talk about your product company, your invention.
Yes.
The makeup bullet, and some of the trials and tribulations that you're going through now in that industry, and just one of the major reasons why we're having this conversation is y'all out there in podcast world, you need to hear this if you are looking at getting into the product business, if you are an inventor, but also we need your support, we need your help, because this is one of those situations where you have a black inventor, a black entrepreneur who's out in the market, and big companies who may see somebody else with a different hue
coming into the market with a cool product and decide to connect with that person, put their face out front in their stores, and really lift their brand up. But that's not what we see going on with Eva Jane's situation with the makeup bullet.
Yeah.
And so let's just talk about that story and just get into it and that journey you're going through now.
Sure. Well, the journey with what I call the makeup bullet as far as its product name, because as a patented creation, it's I think it's listed as finger sponge for applying cosmetics. I was literally on set. I was on set working and I couldn't find anything. I had a client in the chair that needed to get out to the set and time was ticking, and I just had my makeup kind of strewn all over the place. I had set something down and then I'm like, where did I put this? Where did I put that? And I found that I felt like I was looking for things more than I was putting makeup on my client's face. And the thought came to my mind, I was looking for my makeup sponge. I said, if the thing could just stay stuck to my finger, that'd be one less thing I was looking for. And I kind of put a pin in that, like, wow, I wonder if there's anything like that out there. So I did a little research, really didn't see anything. And I said, it would really be cool if I could create a cosmetic sponge that fit like snug on your finger. So it would just kind of become an extension of you. And it was a lot of years before I stepped out on it and really kind of built up the confidence that I could actually create a product from scratch. I really didn't know where to start. And the process was very daunting to me, just in that I knew it would be something that would be a lot of money, for one. It was a high concept because it was something I felt that everybody who wore makeup could use. Like, this would be something that the world would love and I knew would embrace. At least that's what I thought. So when I finally did kind of build up the courage to do it, this was like 2012, I was on a panel and there was a woman on the panel with me who worked for a company that designed brushes. They had their own factory and everything. And I had a sidebar with her and she really encouraged me to go for it because she said, I've been to beauty shows worldwide and I've never seen anything like that. And she said, you could be sitting on a gold mine and you need to do this like yesterday. So immediately I started calling companies that manufactured foam to try to figure out, okay, what do I do? Let's see, I need to actually maybe make a prototype so a company would know what I'm talking about. I did some sketches, I did some drawings, I ordered some foam samples, and then I bought a Dremel and some, carving tools and knives, and I just carved out the shape that I thought I wanted. It was very crude. But between that and the drawings, I found a manufacturing company that worked with the type of material that I wanted to use that said they'd work with me. So at the same time, I did my due diligence on the legal side. I'd have people that I spoke with fill out the non-disclosures. I kept it as hush-hush as I could, bought what you call an Inventors Notebook. And that is like, they actually have them online to where you can order them and, get them embossed with your name and everything. But you basically just want to keep a log of all of your meetings and all of your thoughts and ideas and keep it dated. So if you do have to deal with, say, a legal battle, you have everything kind of documented, and that's like admissible in court to prove that I'm the one who did this. While all of your paperwork goes through. So I did find an attorney that was willing to kind of work with me in payments as I kind of went to be able to file, because one thing that they talk about when you want to get a patent, they say, oh my God, it's so expensive. And I think when you hear something so expensive, the first thing that we do is we go, oh, I don't have a lot of money. Like, I don't necessarily, where am I going to get the money to do that? I'm living paycheck to paycheck now, or whatever your situation might be. But I just really want to encourage people, just because you look at your finances and you say, there's no room here, I always encourage people to take steps, because you just never know what resources might come. And you never know what misinformation you've gotten too, because my attorney, because the filing the paperwork is a process. They don't ask you for the 4,000 or 6,000 or 8,000 right up front for when you're filing. That's kind of a process. So as we're filing the paperwork, as I'm working, because there was a law that was put in place actually that you could make whatever you're doing kind of publicly known. And if you made it publicly known, you had a year to file. So it gives you that year to kind of test your concepts, and all of this might become, of course, dated. Everything I'm saying might not be evergreen. So always check and see because laws change all the time. But at the time, it was you could make it public, say online or have an event, post those pictures, and you still would be protected legally for up to a year, because it gives you time to test your concept. Because before you file that patent, you might need to tweak whatever you've done a little bit to make sure that it works properly and all that. So I worked in secret for a while, worked with the manufacturers, and then I had like a public kind of soft launch of the product with the prototypes that I had that the company made for me. So from the time that I started really actively searching out a manufacturer, that was February of 2012. By December of 2012, I had my first official prototypes back from the manufacturer. And then they were able to kind of tweak their processes well enough that May of 2013, I was able to attend a makeup show in New York City and sell my product. And it sold out by the second day. I had none left. And of the, they could only make, I put them in 3-packs. So my product, it's a cosmetic sponge. And if you can imagine, it's made of foam. It has a hole in it. It fits on your finger, and it's pointed. It has a pointed tip so that you can get in all areas of the face. You can get around your eyes, all of that. And it's very versatile because you could bend your finger, you could work in product in different parts of your face. And it's a really, really handy tool because it leaves you free to kind of multitask. You can still pick up another makeup brush or your eyeliner, your mascara without taking it off. So it was very, very, it was one of those things that was kind of self-explanatory. So the women and the artists there would see it and go, oh my God, this is genius. Why didn't I think of this? Like, nobody's done this. And I'm like, nobody's done this. And I even met one artist in New York at a show, a different beauty show, and she was working on Broadway. And she said, I wanted to do this. I thought of this years ago, and I wanted to do this. And she said, good for you. I'm so glad you did. So it's not necessarily that nobody's ever thought of what you've thought of, but sometimes people are just paralyzed because they just don't know how to begin. And they won't even take the step to try to figure out how to begin. Ask a few questions, and it's not as bad as it seems. So the product's been on the market since 2013. I slowly started to get small boutique beauty specialty stores that would want to carry the product. And I got international stores, especially in the Middle East. The women in the Middle East would see it online, and they would start emailing me like, how can I get this? So I was shipping to all over the world, to different places. If people wanted it, I'd let them buy it, and they pay the shipping costs. And eventually I'm like, I got to get distribution. So then I'd reach out to distributors, and they'd, okay, we'll take a chance on this. So like Saudi Arabia was where I've had my first international distribution, where they were ordering like $30,000 worth of sponges at once. Like, here, we want this, and then we'll put them in these stores. We got the stores already. So
that is not a surprise at all. Just hearing that about that area of the world, and
yes,
knowing how important I think beauty, and especially beauty in the female form is in the culture among women in the Middle East. Makeup and beauty products and everything are definitely huge in that area of the world.
Yes, you are so right. So let me see. So where do I go from here, Gerald? What do you want to know?
You know what? Every single thing that you've been saying is just, it's key for both people who are in your industry, and like you said, for people who are thinking about starting a product. The number one thing is that paralysis. Sometimes people get paralysis of analysis, but I think when it comes to inventing a product, people get a different kind of paralysis. It's almost like there's the great idea, but those steps from idea to prototype to making the connections with potential manufacturers to actually get them. I mean, all of that is something that just seems so intimidating. And I know you just went through that process, but is there a way we could back up a little bit and maybe throw in a few of the steps in between that it takes to get from one spot to another, and really what partners can help? Like, what type of people do you need to have in your corner to help you get those pieces done?
Okay, so let me say this. I started with something. Now, that wasn't the first invention idea that I've had. There have been others. And as quote unquote easy and simple as my product was, it still had its challenges in my mind of just stepping out on it. But there were other inventions that I thought of that, I talked to engineers about and that kind of thing. And it just got so complicated. I'm like, like before the heated eyelash curler, I had that idea. I'm like, a heated eyelash curler, because back in the day, what we would do, we'd take our eyelash curler and then we'd take our blow dryer and, blow the eyelash curler to heat it up, because it, that was just one of those. I'm like, oh, I need to make one of those. And I went to engineering friends and, well, what do you think? And designing and all that. And it just got so complicated. I just gave up. And then like some years later, my girlfriend's like, look, Eva, your idea. I'm like, yeah, somebody else did that, because that was just beyond me. But I think for one, when you stay kind of in your wheelhouse with that idea to a certain degree of something that you kind of enjoy, if you're going to, walk this thing out yourself, something that you enjoy. Now, one thing, or that's in your industry, it makes it a little easier, because what I found is I have to be at industry trade shows, and say I came up with a wonderful thing for a toilet, I've been working this thing for 5 years, and to a certain degree, my product is still 6 years, brand new. If I came up with some new thing for the toilet, then I'd be at plumbing conventions for the past 5 years, So would I want to be in that arena? And I think that's kind of important to look at, because whatever you step out on, you're going to be working on it for a while. So make sure it's something that you're passionate about. Now, that's just a personal thing that I think, because I know that I've had to be around people and talk about beauty. And if I didn't like beauty, then I'd be miserable right now. But because it's something that I enjoy, it helps, because it's already difficult. So I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say that the invention process, it's easy, just step out. No, you're going to be told no a lot. When I called the manufacturers, there were a lot of manufacturers who refused to work with the small company. And I just thought, okay, part of me is like, gosh, you're rude. Y'all are just why wouldn't you want to uplift? But when you look at manufacturing in the United States, and I think it's kind of come to the forefront a lot right now, but a lot of these companies, for one, don't want to slow their production flow to work on a maybe might with you. Like, they don't have the staff to do it, and, the manpower, and they don't necessarily, because whenever you stop a machine to do something else, there's time in between. So for me, I had to kind of start looking at both sides of it and find a company that was small business friendly and somebody that was small budget friendly. Like, because I started out sending them payments of like maybe $400 at a time, little chunks. Like, here, I can send y'all this and y'all work on a little bit, and then I'll send y'all another, So that's kind of how they worked with me. But there are some companies that you might call and say, oh, well, what's your budget for this? What are, 20,000 or whatever. You might not have 20,000 to just say here. And the thing is, I wouldn't necessarily advise going all in like that with one company, because things change and you need to tweak things. And there are those quote unquote invention companies, invent help. Oh, we'll help you. And, we'll help small inventors and we'll help you. But I mean, for me, the learning process has come because I've had to walk it out myself. And I've made some mistakes, but I haven't made, mistakes that cost me everything. They might have been like a $750 mistake, like, dang it, but I could kind of pivot a little from that. So I had to find 2 manufacturers for what I was doing, because I had my design. I did not need an engineer to do my design. Now, my next product, I needed an engineer for, because it needed like technical drawings that I couldn't just freehand and hand directly to a manufacturer. But
Okay.
for this particular thing that I started with and has been my learning curve, I was able to just do a drawing, hand them my little crude prototype, and they could kind of go from there. So I think when you're looking and sorting through your ideas, just kind of do the easiest one and do the one where you're going to feel most comfortable and you're not just learning a total new industry, because there are even nuances among makeup artists that I've learned, because I've been in the Southeast for all of my adult life in my career in doing makeup. And I did not really realize that there were some differences in how makeup artists, say even on the West Coast who work in film, how they do what they do. And I've just learned in the last few years. So even though I'm very familiar with beauty, I've been in the industry for so long, still getting out and talking to other artists and learning, the different challenges that they're working with. Because here's the thing. Lots of times you work in a certain environment among certain people. And then maybe like for instance, I'm from Columbus, Ohio. We weren't as multicultural in Columbus, Ohio as we are even down here. And somebody in New York would say, oh, y'all not multicultural. We got some of everybody here. So I'm constantly like shifting the wording, even in my packaging and how I describe and how I communicate how to use my product. I say all that to say there's so much that you don't know. So when you approach something saying, oh, this is what it is, this is what it needs to be, and you put $50,000 into this one way to do it, chances are once you get a year or two in, you're going to be like, dang, I didn't know that. I wish I had, even if you're super familiar with your industry. I'm just saying that's just been my experience.
Right.
So for me, I desired organic growth with my product. I desired that slow, steady, let me get to know this process. Let me build my business acumen as I go, because I didn't want to, for one, be one of those businesses that you hear, they grew so fast, they couldn't keep up, they failed. I've gotten beyond that 5-year mark, and I'm coming up on it. In May, I'll have launched. I did a soft launch March of 2013, but I'm getting to that 5-year, and I'm like, they say like 85%, I believe, drop off after this point of all the small businesses that are started. They don't reach that 5-year point. So that's great. I've reached that milestone, but at the same time, they always say continue to learn. So I still am. I still am. Yeah.
So what I'm hearing, one of the big things that I heard there that it would be important for me is it sounds like that learning that you did with your product, it had a lot to do with making sure that you were in the right places. You were going to conventions, you were going to gatherings of places where there will be lots of people who are in the industry from different places, and every opportunity you get, it's an opportunity to sell your product, but it's an opportunity to hear your target customers give you feedback on your product. Yep. Which kind of informed the direction, might inform the next, 3 or 6 months of your movements. So it sounded to me like a really big piece of it too is don't think you got it perfect the first time out. Always be in front of your target customer and constantly be listening is what I think I just heard there.
Oh, totally. And I think sometimes that's important, because what the mass is like knowing who your target is, because I think sometimes we feel the appeal of our product is for everybody. Oh, everybody will love this. And when it's your baby, you might not be as open to criticism. And I think you have to keep yourself open to criticism, no matter how it comes. If it comes harshly or if it comes lovingly, you really have to keep your eyes open and your ears open to that. Because what I found is if somebody, for one, misuses my product or doesn't get it, For one, they might not be my target because I've had people who say, I don't use sponges, I use brushes. And there's nothing I can say to that person usually to say, oh, but you'll love my sponge. Like, I don't use those, I use brushes for everything. Okay, well, that's cool. But
Yep.
the other is misuse. Like, I'll have people who use my product incorrectly. And you think, how can you do that? It's a sponge, you stick it on your finger. But I didn't realize that because I've learned lately that if somebody uses my product incorrectly, I have to do I can't say they're stupid. I have to do everything I can I'm like, well, why didn't you read the instructions? There's an instruction book in there that says this is what you're supposed to do. 9 out of the 10 people that open it up already think they know how to use it. They see it and then they treat it with the past knowledge. Like a lot of people, which I didn't realize because I wasn't one of those artists who did that, will automatically wet their sponges. And it took me maybe 2-3 years into my product being on the market to understand that, like, why. Like, I get it because there's a competitor that's their method, like, oh, wet the sponge. But my thing is, you wet a sponge because the pores aren't open enough for it to accept product and deposit it, and it's too dense. So you wet it to open it up, and I get that, but that's not the way I've designed mine. But then coming from the film world, which a lot of makeup artists come from, there would be this 8-pack of sponges. And sometimes when my girlfriends would invite me to day play on films, because they would work on films, and I'm like, I don't want to be anywhere 6 weeks, like all day. Like, I can't do that. I don't have the nerves for it. But they invite me, I say, if I day play, and they give you this 8-pack of sponges that's really, really like this stiff block. And I'm like, how do y'all work with these things? Like, it's so stiff and hard. But I guess they got used to them because they would wet them so that they wouldn't be so unyielding. But I never worked with sponges like that, but that's kind of like their industry thing. So I had to kind of see the crossover, like, oh, that's why they're saying, oh, no, don't do that to mine, because if you do that to mine, you're going to get the opposite result. So the first time I went to my pediatrician, my son's pediatrician. I'm sitting in the waiting room and a new video alert comes up that somebody's trying my product. And I was so excited. And at the end of the video, they had like wet the whole thing. It was huge. They were like fiddling with it, like, oh, I don't really. And then she ripped it. She like pulled a big hole in it and ripped it. She was like, oh, I guess it's not that good quality. And I just literally, I wanted to fall to pieces, because this video got picked up and circulated by so many different websites of her like tearing my sponge and just basically like, oh, it's not a good quality, I guess. And I'm like, no. So now I'm just like, okay, it is on me to educate the consumer. And it is a big job because there's a lot of people out there who are set in their ways. So I'm like lately, so what I do is I do a quick start instruction. Because I'm like, people are not going to read. So this is big old letters, 1, 2, 3. This is how you use it. As soon as you open it up, you see this. So that is one of the things that as an inventor, as a brand owner, it's like you can be bitter about it. You can be mad. You can take the side, but it's like, no, it is on me to re-educate, and I have to get out there and tell people why it's a great product, because you don't have to do that extra step.
Absolutely.
So,
I love it. Well, hey, let's get to the
bad stuff, the painful
stuff we got to get to for the makeup bullet, because God, this is another so important lesson in inventor and entrepreneurship that you're going through right now. So let's talk about some of the challenges. What's been going on recently that kind of has sparked this firestorm you've got going on?
Yeah. Well, when you invent something, I wanted control over it, so I did have it manufactured right here in the U.S. But I knew eventually that China manufacturers were going to see it and try to replicate it. And the first time that I saw that was about 2 years ago. I went online and somebody was using pictures that I actually took with my own cell phone from their China factory saying, we make this. And I was like, oh God, it started. Okay. So I actually bought product from that China company. And it's not the same quality. It isn't, but I already had another trademark that I purchased called Pretty Stick. And I said, when this happens, I kind of do want a second tier because my product, a single sponge sells for $15 and a triple pack sells for $25. And I knew that the average consumer that's not really into like prestige beauty, higher end beauty, isn't necessarily going to buy a $15 sponge. So I did want a lower priced alternative. And I wanted to possibly maybe get something from China and kind of white label it, to not associate it with me, but just kind of let people know on the packaging of this is an approved of this patent number, whatever. So I had that approved product, and I would go to different shows, B2B trade shows, and I do have retailers who carry both the Makeup Bullet and Pretty Stick. Mm-hmm. And Pretty Stick is my lower end. It sells for about half the price of the Makeup Bullet, and it's made overseas. So I've been to many different retailers. I mean, Ross has purchased that product from me because, they're the kind of for the value conscious shopper. Right. And I have some other retailers. So then last year I got an alert of, and it started last year, Sephora and Forever 21. I had separate friends send me pictures of knockoffs being sold at those two stores. And I said, whoa, okay. So got my attorney, do the cease and desist, send him my patent. This is my product. I have a patent for this product. I have a patent, actually have two. I have one for a rounded version and one for my pointed version, kind of like how the Makeup Bullet is. And they both replied, sending me these long drawn out attorney letters as to why they felt that they were justified in being in violation. So that was kind of disheartening. It was kind of my first, welcome to, being infringed upon. And I was kind of, when it first happened, especially with Sephora, I was like, well, I don't know, because I had a distributor out in the UK who wanted to still work with Sephora. So they were kind of like, well, you might not want to just, take this to that, because we might still be able to work with them. So I'm like, okay, let me just chill out. But then a couple of weeks ago, what happened was I got another alert from a girlfriend out of town, and it was a text message with a picture. And she said, can they do this? And it was a product in Walgreens. So I did a Facebook Live and just shared with my Facebook friends what I was about to do. I said, look, I just got this alert. I don't know if this product is here at my local Walgreens in the Atlanta area, but I'm going in. So I took them on this camera and went in Walgreens, and sure enough, there was one item left on their shelves, and they called it the over-the-finger blending sponge. And it was basically the Makeup Bullet in Walgreens under a different name. And they had these two little finger sponges in there that were selling for like $4 for two of them, which it is just the most, it hurt me to my core, because I'm like, either, I don't know if you're blatantly, I couldn't say they were blatantly doing anything, because it could just be, because at least China factories, what they do is they'll stick stuff in your, you'll order from them, and then they'll stick other stuff in there. Look, we have this hot sale. That's their thing, hot sale. We have this, we can make this. So they may have just told Walgreens, like, hey, this is something that we can do for you, and we can label it under your, and, as their distributor, as their, I apologize, not distributor, as their manufacturer who makes some of their own things. That could have been what happened, because it's a made in China product. I read all the verbiage and everything, and they talk about all the benefits of being able to put it on your finger and get in the corners of your, all that. That is what I created. So, I went ahead, bought the product, and I really was like, okay, what do I do? Because I know what these big, huge corporations will do is, in the past, what's been done to me, they come up with these justifications as to why they can be in violation. One of their attorneys even sent back from the other companies of citing some obscure case, and your product shouldn't have been granted the patent. And I'm just like, how are you going to say it shouldn't have been granted? It was. So that evening, what I did as far as the Walgreens thing is I looked on their website, and I inboxed through LinkedIn somebody who was like a diversity director who had a statement on their website, and I just asked for their help. I said, look, this is what's happened. I have a patent. Can you help me? And they replied a couple of days later saying they were going to send it over to their legal department, and they really take IP infringement seriously, that kind of thing. But I haven't heard anything since then, as I was hoping to hear something. So my lawyer has drafted a new cease and desist, because I do want to have that paperwork in, at least, just that formal, here, this is that. And when you talk about companies that are just huge like that, they've got tons of money. And there are those makeup artists who've had those types of companies undergird them and help promote and help them develop even bigger lines and kind of partner with them. And that is what I would hope a Walgreens or anybody like a CVS even, or any of those stores, like, look, how about partner, and then let's bring out something, use my expertise to really come out with products that are really going to help your customers and be effective. Because truly, I put a lot of thought into the design of my product and the functionality of it, and why, and the material it was made from, and why it works so well. So that's where I am with that. I'm still, waiting. And at the same time, there was another company that, I don't know, I was a little reluctant. I was just so disheartened. When I say that, maybe I was just super naive, because I think we've all heard the horror stories of the small company, the inventor, who basically gets, it's a history with Black inventors. It's unfortunate that that's how it started, where we couldn't even get property rights or patent rights, and it was just kind of our intellectual property was taken over by somebody else and filed for, we didn't get credit. Now it's almost like you got this piece of paper, but it's worthless, because what the companies know is your arms aren't long enough to fight them, your pockets aren't deep enough, rather, to fight them that way. So what I see that has been effective lately is just public shaming. So I'm not sure if, which route I'm going to be able to go with some of these companies. I'm still, like you said, in the midst of this. It's still very fresh. And then the other company, there's a company called Enchanté out of New York, and we're sending them a cease and desist as well, because they've been selling a dupe, a knockoff version of my sponge, the finger sponge, that they get from factories in China, because I'm constantly on Alibaba telling Alibaba, look, this site, this site, this site, this site, they're selling sponges that I created. I own the rights to this. They cannot sell it, to, at least not within the United States. So they need to take down their listing. But what happens is, once you have a relationship with the manufacturer overseas, all they're going to do is, whether they can advertise it or not, they're just going to stick some in your package and say, hey, if you want these, we can make them too. And nobody will ever be the wiser on the outside as far as where they're necessarily getting it from.
Right.
So there's ways to work around it. But to me, what I have is my voice, and what I have is my tribe. What I have are people who I can say, look, this is what I did, and I'm very free with sharing information as far as the journey is concerned. I love giving people and encouraging people and giving them advice on how to begin and where to go. And I don't know everything. So the little bit that I know, I'm always willing to share. But it's just, when unfair things happen, at some point you just have to not say, well, that's just kind of the way it is. No, use your voice. And so that's where I am right now. And like I said, I'm in the middle of it. So I don't know what Walgreens is going to do. I don't know if, once they get the cease and desist, if they're going to say, oh, we really didn't know, our bad. How can we make this right? That's what I hope they do. I hope they don't do like the company that was working with Sephora, who supplied their sponges, and Forever 21, and just basically say, oh, well, we're doing this. We're going to continue to do it. We're going to continue to sell, because that's what they're doing. They're continuing to sell. And that's unfortunate. It really is.
Yeah. So, and as you were talking, as I'm listening, what I'm thinking about is the fact that you do have this 25-year career behind you. You have your name, you have your experience, and you have your connections across the makeup industry. And like we were talking about last week, it would be just as easy and probably easier for those companies to say, okay, let's make an Eva Jane line
Yeah,
of whatever and license your product, which, that might be something that comes out of the backside of this campaign,
totally.
um, when you don't just shut up and go away and there are more and more people carrying your message. Eventually, boycotts still work as long as they're
Yeah.
targeted, and
Yeah.
the people who typically spend that money say, I'm not spending that money with you anymore until you do right, till you do right by me. Everything you touch
Mm,
is going to fall to ashes,
mm.
right? Uh,
Woo!
I feel like
Woo!
that's got to be the route sometimes. And,
Mm. Yeah.
I just want to know what can we do? What can we do as a podcast community, as an audience out here to help you in this campaign that you got right now to help you get that message further?
Well, okay. I thought about this. Okay, so numbers speak, whether it is people numbers or whether it is money numbers. That's what big corporations look at. They look at their bottom line, what's hitting their bottom line, and they do look at, bad publicity. Because I mean, they say any news is a boost or whatever. And I have found, for me, and it's fortunate and unfortunate that I'm going through this. More people are, because I'm like, God's gonna, God's gonna uplift me because I'm doing what I do with a pure heart. So more people are hearing about my product just because of this. So, there's always a silver lining, even when things look they're bleakest, and even when you feel like you could be downtrodden. I've had so much encouragement, even from people I don't even know. I met a sister when I was in San Fran who is an amazing makeup artist. Tiana Robinson in DC. She was voted DC's like best makeup artist. And I met her in San Francisco, and she saw my Facebook post of me walking in Walgreens, and she said, I shared that. And I'm like, like, really? Like, you're one of the people. Like, that is amazing. So the ripple effect of when you share something. So that particular video, sharing that particular video and getting this message about what I'm going through right now with this whole Walgreens thing, that is a huge help, because they're going to hear it eventually, and it's going to come back to them if they don't listen to just me. The other thing is following the Makeup Bullet on social media. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, and I have, of course, a Facebook page for the Makeup Bullet, the Makeup Bullet, following the Makeup Bullet. And yeah, and I guess you could have a link, because anybody that's on Facebook can share that video. Actually, I shared it to some of my girlfriends who were not even on Facebook because it's a public post. But those are a couple of things, and stay in touch with me. And if you see something, say something. That's what my friends do. I constantly get messages from them like, Eva, is this yours? Are they buying this from you? Because they know all that I went through to finally just build up enough courage to even try and start this. So, to be like only 4 years into it at the time and have some other company just steal it and not want to give me, just license it from me. I'd be happy to license it if a store wants to, have it under their own brand. But I mean, patents only last so long, and I don't want my patent to expire and that be the game where, oh, well, we'll just ignore you or fight you long enough to where it won't even matter. Because it's just not right. It's not right. It's not righteous. And it's not, and I just feel that it doesn't sit right on my spirit and my heart to just be silent about it any longer. because it's been something that's been kind of a thorn and just really agitating to me. So I really wanted to just share the story. So I thank you. I thank you to anybody that'll pass the story along, and anybody that has any other platforms or knows somebody with a platform to where I can share more. I mean, I can fly. I fly places all the time. So yeah.
So speaking on that, well, two things. So one, I want to give a shout out to, and I only know her as KM on Facebook, but
Katrina Home.
Yes, shout out to Katrina
I
for
love
reaching out
her.
to me and connecting us so that we could get your story out on the Buy Black podcast. I can tell you immediately off the top of my head, the very first podcast I listened to that got me into this industry is a podcast called The Black Entrepreneur Blueprint, and it's hosted by a guy named Jay Jones out of Philadelphia. I can reach out to Jay and see if I can get you two connected and see if we can get you onto his platform, because he's up in the 200s of episodes. He's been doing it for a couple of years, and he's got a very large following of folks who are in the entrepreneurship world who could definitely help. That would be a great platform to get your message onto. So I'll see if I can make a connection via email that way too.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's been, like I said, it's been my girlfriends, my social media friends. Katrina is one of those people, and I mean, I know you don't know her, but she is just a rare gem in that she's going to be, you think you're the most passionate about what you're doing. She's one of those who her passion will be like almost equal with yours about what you're passionate about. So, I mean, that's been a blessing. People like her, and she's always been, look, she helps me when I had a promotion. She came over like, look, let's pack some of these makeup bullets. I'm like, okay. So it's that type of warmth that keeps me going. It's that type of support that keeps me going, because although it's not easy, I wouldn't trade this journey for anything, because my sons see the value of when you work hard at something and when you love something and they're watching and they help. And I need to show them that work ethic, because you don't get anywhere by sitting back on, what you did last week or whatever. Nah, just keep working at it. And your persistence and your diligence, it's going to pay off. And the good guys, they win in the end.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, speaking on that, let's go to some of the final questions that I'd have for you. The quickest, easiest one is, what do you have coming up next? Where can people find you, and if they are in the right place in the right time, where might they be able to come out and actually talk to you directly about the Makeup Bullet? What's going on?
Well, let's see. What do I have going? Well, I'm in Atlanta, so Atlanta trade shows. I'm going to be at all of those. IMATS is coming to Atlanta towards the end of the year, I believe. And I have some Dillard's events coming up, but that's all in the Atlanta area. But like I said, I travel. So if someone has an event and they're like, hey, Eva, would love to have you come out to this, especially, makeup related or entrepreneur related, I'm always happy to share. And I'm thinking, because it seems like I had something else coming up. I'm going to be on a panel for the DeKalb Chamber next month for entrepreneurs. I'm a member of the DeKalb Chamber, the Women's Chamber, what is the other? The MSDC, Minority Supplier Diversity Council. I think that's what that acronym is. But yeah, I very much believe in being a part of just different organizations to be able to network and build your relationships that way.
Love it.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to connecting with you, so you gave us some of the places where people should go to support you, find the Makeup Bullet page on Facebook, like it, follow it, things like that. But if folks wanted to reach out to you to ask how they could help and support, or if they wanted to learn more about your business or just learn more about how to do what you've done, what's the best way for them to get in contact with you?
Well, I mean, I am personally on social media as well, of course. Twitter, it's Eva Jane. Instagram, it's I am Eva Jane. And email, let's see, which email could I give? Let's see. Send email ASAP at Gmail. That's a good one. Send email ASAP at Gmail. And that's one of my personals. And then we can kind of go from there. But I'm very accessible. And look, I got a website. You can find me. You can find me. If you Google me, you can find me. You can find my information.
Look, I found 3 or 4.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not hiding from anybody. AnointedHands.com.
TheMakeupBullet.com.
You can email me through that. The Makeup Bullet. I get them all. Look. One trick that you learn as an independent entrepreneur is you say we a lot. Well, we. But, you email any of those, I'm going to see them.
Right.
It's going to come to me.
You know what? I've had that same issue with this podcast. I started out saying, well, we do this and we do that, knowing I'm the only person over here doing this. And I was just like, it sounds disingenuous to me. And it's like, no, I'm doing this. I built this. You're going to reach out to me. I will respond to it. But it's hard to talk like that because you're so used to seeing companies talking the third person. And it's like, no, this is me. Email any of these. You got me.
But, it can backfire. Though, it backfires lots of times because here's what happens. And here's what happened to me this week. Mm-hmm. Because my product, if you look at it, like, for instance, even when you see the Facebook thing and I got to the counter of Walgreens, I had one of my products with me and I had theirs. And she was like, oh, you want to buy this too? And it was mine. And I'm like, no. I was like, this isn't here. This is my package. Because it's very polished. It's, it's retail. It looks like it should be on a retail shelf. My logo's very polished. The website is fine. It's, it's the website. But people think I'm a big old company. So when I reach out to like bloggers and vloggers to like partner with them, they think I'm going to give them like $2,500 to do a post they'll leave up for 3 hours and take down whatever. I'm like, no. I'm not L'Oreal. Like I'm an indie entrepreneur still bootstrapping it. So, but it's like your image can be so polished that people just like, oh, okay. So, but it's like, nah, let me let you know that I'm still building my brand. It's not, so there's that constant like trying to balance with, okay, I can't give you 20,000 for this right this second, but how can we work together still? You want to work with people. So it is kind of that balance between I and we and, well, who do you have working with you? Well, I do have a sales team, but a lot of what I do, I kind of hire out. It's not necessarily, it's still like friends and family and everybody helping me, along the way a lot. Mm-hmm. Yep. So anyway.
Mm-hmm. No, that's good. That's good. So we have reached the final question that I have here.
Oh, and, okay.
My final question, always on the Buy Black podcast, is what is your number one piece of advice for everybody out here in the Buy Black podcast community?
Okay. My number one piece of advice is, it goes back to the kind of, and I'm trying to think, I know what it is. I'm just trying to see how to phrase it when we talked about that whole Frozen thing. Mm-hmm. Do something, don't constantly just, because we can think away on our dreams and dream away our dreams. But if you say, okay, this is something I want to do, but I'm not quite sure if this is the right thing to do. I don't care if it's not the right thing to do, because what happens, and this is the word that they use in the entrepreneur circles, is pivot. Pivot just, to a certain degree, it's like, oh, I'm doing the wrong thing. But it's pivoting comes from actually moving forward on something. And then you learn something about what you're doing and saying, oh, because you might start out with something that you're like, this is what the world needs. I know this is what the world needs because you're in your world and you think this is what. But then you get your concept out among people and you start constantly hearing the same thing. Well, why don't you do that? Why don't you? And at the first time you hear it, it's annoying. The second time you hear it, you're like, oh, that's a coincidence. The third time you hear it from somewhere else, you're like, you know what? Maybe I need to pay attention to that, because that could be the thing. It's related closely to what you want to do, and it's not going to take much more of you to do. It's not going to take you to change your thinking. But when I tell you that whole pivot thing but it comes from taking steps. It comes from making phone calls. It comes from asking questions, and it comes from moving. It doesn't come from thinking about it. I mean, you can write down all your steps and everything, but until you start like getting out into the world and asking questions and moving on things and maybe spending a few dollars on something, that's when you see if you have a viable concept, or if you just kind of need to tweak it a little bit to be something that's really going to be something that the market is going to take hold of and grab. And even if you do something, because I mean, coming up with something nobody's ever done, that's the invention thing. But even if you come up with a concept that, like, for instance, a lot of makeup artists, they'll say, I've always wanted a makeup line, and they'll start with something like lip glosses. You'll see a lot of companies will start that way, like clothing companies. They'll start with T-shirts, because they start with something manageable. They get out there, they start to be able to have something to interact with people on, something somebody will want to buy, and then they get more information on what people want along with this. Ooh, I'd love to have a hat to match this, or I'd love to have a blush color that's kind of similar. And then you start to build little by little. Don't think you have to jump out and do the whole thing. Just do a little bit. They say, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
Yeah.
So that's
one big old bite at a time. Well, I love it.
Yeah.
That is phenomenal advice. I need to hear that. I feel like every single person in the entrepreneurship world, we probably have heard that advice 10 times before, and every time you hear it, it's brand new, because we always there's always something, like you said, where you just get stuck and you get kind of paralyzed for a second. You need somebody to come in and just tell you, hey, do something. You need to move in order for you to see where the opportunities are, where to pivot. So thank you so much for that.
That's true. That is so true. I'm telling you, and don't let, because somebody else is doing it, they're not doing it like you would do it, because it is about relationships. It really is. People buy because of people, they buy because they like you and they want to interact with you. The woman down the street might have the exact same thing as you, but she's got a funky attitude, and I'd really rather come to you.
I love it.
Oh,
I love it.
thank you, Gerald.
Thank you. Thank you so much for connecting with me, coming on the show. You have shared so much today, and every bit of it is applicable to me, and I know that every bit of it is going to be applicable to somebody out there in that audience. And I have the big call, everybody out here in the Buy Black podcast community, I constantly remind you, we are not here to just take. Our business owners come on this show and just give so much knowledge and time for free, and we are out here. Our reciprocation is the support. Our reciprocation is to go out and find those products and purchase them to further the message. I know a bunch of y'all out there are probably connected in Black Twitter, and Black Twitter is where all the public shaming of these companies ends up happening. So if we can get this message out to the right people and kind of get it out there to say, this is a Black woman who's out here, been in the industry for 25 years, has an incredible product, has a patent on that product, and she's getting sidelined and bullied by some big companies. We're not going to let that happen. It's on us to make that happen. So let's show our appreciation for everything that Eva Jane has given us today by going out and sharing this message.
Yeah, and I guess I didn't tell them where they can get the makeup bullet.
We've said it a few times.
Did we? On the website and on Amazon and Ulta.com and in Dillard stores. Yeah, those are a few places.
No, that's the one that we did miss. You didn't mention that you do have it with Ulta. Get it. Yeah.
Ulta.com. Yeah, Ulta.com. They have it. So, blessings to you, sir, and keep doing the good work. You are doing some great work. I really appreciate this. And thank you to your listeners for listening this long. to
Wonderful.
me.
Now, this is right about where we go with this show. It's usually somewhere just over an hour, and it's all gold. So you were right in that sweet spot.
Good stuff.
Um, but yeah, folks, thanks for hanging in with us today. That is it for this episode, and we will catch you next time around. All right, ladies and gentlemen, what did I tell you about that episode with Eva Jane? It was powerful, and I hope that you walked away with as many lessons as I did. I'm going to get you out of here real quick. The last thing I want to do is to let you know where you can go, where you need to go to help Eva Jane continue to get her message out about the intellectual property infringement fight that she is having right now with those major companies. Remember, she was talking about Sephora, she was talking about Walgreens, and there are some other companies that are out there that are basically putting knockoffs out on the shelves of her product. However, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk to you about where you can find the real thing, right? Where you can find the real thing. Obviously, you can find her product, the Makeup Bullet, at themakeupbullet.com, right? Also, you can find her product, the Makeup Bullet, in Ulta Beauty, ULTA.com. You can also find it in Dillard's. So she's got it into a couple of major retailers there. And then also where you can find Eva Jane elsewhere. Obviously, she's got the IMDB page. She has her website, anointedhands.com, where you can learn a lot about her experience in doing makeup, celebrity makeup, and in the entertainment industry. And then she also has another page that is out there about her films and the film work that she does. And so we're going to have all of those links inside of the show notes, where you can actually click and you can make your way to any one of those locations to find her authentic products. Now, to help support and get more word out about the issues that she's having with companies stealing her intellectual property, I'm going to put a link to the Facebook Live video that she did inside the show notes. And in that Facebook Live video, she takes her product, the authentic, she goes into Walgreens and she finds the knockoff product, she buys it. You can walk through that whole process with her. To date, this video has 4,500 views. I want you guys to help it get a lot more views. So if you have Facebook, click on the link, go to Facebook, share this video on your page, take a few minutes to watch it so you know the context of it, you know the context from the show. Add a nice comment directly from you so that everybody on your page will know how important it is to you to share it, and then get them to share it as well. If we can help her get more shares of this video on Facebook, if we can get it more out there on Twitter, if we can get it out there on other platforms where you guys are active and you know people who are going to help continue to get the word out, that's what we need. Because when you tie in all of her entrepreneurial experience, all of her connections within the hair and makeup industry, and then all of our Twitter fingers out here working to help continue to push the word, we can make an impact. We can make these companies come to the table with something more than a disrespectful, sorry, we got more money than you, so come try to fight us type of response. So let's do that, folks. I appreciate you guys being out there. But remember what we said before the show. It is time. If you are not yet convinced that this is not a game, then you probably shouldn't be a part of this audience. And I don't want to lose a single one of you. I'm not trying to push anybody away. But I am not here to hear myself talk every week. And I hope you're not just here to take the time of the business owners who come on the show, to take the information from the business owners who come on the show, and then not give anything back. Today is one of those days. There's something very specific you can do to give back and help out, and I really hope you guys do that. Other than that, thank you for being out there. We will catch you guys next week in the next episode.